nobody tells you about your career, your business, your job. The thing that decides whether you spend the next 30 years climbing or coasting. It isn't your talent. It isn't your work ethic, exactly. It isn't even your network. It is whether you have made yourself genuinely hard to replace. And here's the truth. The world is full of people who are technically competent at their job. They show up, they do the work, they aren't bad at what they do. But if they left tomorrow, the company would replace them in 2 weeks. The clients would survive. The team would adjust. Within a month, it would be as if they had never been there. And the person who got replaced like that doesn't even know it could happen until it does. Meanwhile, there are other people in the same company, in the same industry, doing roughly the same job who could leave tomorrow and the entire system would shake. The boss would lose sleep. The clients would call. 3 meetings would be canceled. The replacement search would take months, and the replacement wouldn't be as good. That difference between the easily replaceable and the genuinely hard to replace is not about luck. It is about deliberate choices that one person made over years and the other person never thought about. Today, I want to walk you through 10 things you can do, starting today, to make yourself harder to replace. Not because you are afraid of getting fired, but because the value of your work, the size of your income, the doors that open for you, the respect you walk into rooms with, all of it is downstream of whether the people who pay you would feel the loss if you walked out the door. Make yourself worth missing. That is the entire game. Now let me tell you why this matters more than almost anything else you can work on. Because most people think their job security comes from being good at the work. It doesn't. The world is full of people who are good at their work, and the world replaces them every single day. Goodness alone is not enough. The market for good is saturated. You cannot win the game by being slightly better at the same thing everybody else is doing. What you have to be is rare. You see, the math of replacement is brutal. If 100 people can do your job at the same level you do it, you have no leverage. None. You can be fired tomorrow and replaced by Friday. You can be told what to accept, what to take, what to swallow. You have no voice. Because the supply of people who can do what you do is too large for you to have any. And here's the truth. Most people are in that situation, and they don't even know it. But if you are one of the rare people who can do something that the company genuinely depends on, the math flips. Now you have leverage. The company has to keep you happy. The company has to pay you well. The company has to listen when you push back. Because the cost of losing you is enormous, and they know it. You didn't get there by being slightly better at the same thing everybody else does. You got there by becoming somebody different. Ask yourself this: if you walked out the door tomorrow and never came back, how long would it take the company to recover? If the answer is days or weeks, you are replaceable. If the answer is months and many things would never quite be the same, you have built something. And the thing you have built is the only real security you will ever have in your working life. Not your contract, not your title, the hole you would leave if you left. So today we get into the 10 things. None of them are easy. None of them happen overnight. All of them require you to do deliberately what most people in your position will never do. But every single one of them, if you build it over the next 2 or 3 years, takes you off the replaceable list and puts you on the rare list, where you belong, where the money and the doors and the respect have been waiting for you all along. Number 1, You must become the person who brings solutions, not problems. Most people, when something goes wrong at work, take it to their boss like a child taking a broken toy to their parent. Here's the problem. Fix it for me. That is how the entry-level person operates. That is also how the entry-level person stays entry-level. Here's the truth. Every time you bring a problem to somebody without a solution attached, you are giving them more work. You are turning yourself into a tax on their day. And the boss, after about the 5th time you do that, starts to associate you with workload, with trouble, with time being subtracted from their life. They don't say it, they just feel it. And the next time a promotion comes around, they pick somebody who doesn't feel like a tax. The rare person does it differently. The rare person, when something goes wrong, sits with it for an hour before they say anything. They think about possible solutions. They evaluate the trade-offs. They pick the one they think is best. And then they go to the boss and they say, here's what happened. Here's what I think we should do. Here is why. And here is what I need from you to do it. That conversation is 20 minutes shorter than the problem-only conversation. The boss leaves the conversation feeling lighter, not heavier. And the next promotion has a name attached to it. You see, the value you produce isn't measured in hours. It is measured in problems solved minus problems created. Every time you bring a solution, you are subtracting from somebody's stress. Every time you bring just the problem, you are adding to it. And over a year, those additions and subtractions tell a story about you that ends up determining what you get paid and how far you go. Become the solution carrier. You cannot afford to be the one who creates work for the people you report to. Not if you want to move up. Train yourself every single day to sit with the problem long enough to bring something to the conversation other than the problem itself. The first few times you do it, it will feel slower. It is not slower. It is more valuable. And the people around you will start to notice that you are someone who makes their life easier, not harder. That alone moves you up the list of hard-to-replace people faster than almost anything else you can do. Next, learn the work other people refuse to learn. In every company, in every industry, there are pockets of work that nobody wants to do. The dull, technical, complicated stuff. The reports nobody reads, but somebody has to write. The systems nobody understands, but the whole business runs on. The processes that haven't been documented in a decade. Everybody avoids them, so they accumulate untended, growing more important over time. Here's the truth. The work nobody wants to do is the work that makes you irreplaceable. Because when somebody finally learns it, they become the only person who can do it, and the company suddenly can't afford to lose them. The boring work, taken seriously, is worth more than the glamorous work that everybody is competing for. Because no one is competing for the boring work. You walk in and pick it up, and within 6 months, you own it. Most people avoid this work because they think it makes them look small. They think the glamorous projects are the path to status. So they fight for the visible work and leave the foundational work alone. But here's the irony. The people who do the foundational work end up running the company. The people who chase the glamour end up working for them. Because the foundational work over time becomes the actual business. And the glamorous work over time gets outsourced or automated. You see, the moat you build with this work isn't a competitive advantage. It is a barrier. Nobody else can get in, because the path you took to get there, through the unsexy, unglamorous, ignored work, is a path nobody else is willing to walk. And the moat keeps you in there, drawing the value for as long as you want to keep doing it. Take the work nobody else takes. The next time something difficult and unglamorous lands on the team, raise your hand. Not because you want the credit. You won't get any in the short term. Take it because in 3 years, you'll be the only one who knows how to do it. And the company you work for will treat you accordingly. The boring work is the kingmaker every single time. Next, you got to build real relationships with the people the company genuinely depends on. The big clients, the key suppliers, the partners, the team members in other departments who actually run the engine of the business. The people whose loss would damage the company in ways the company couldn't easily recover from. You see, most employees only know the people they directly work with. They know their immediate team, their boss, a few coworkers in the cafeteria. The wider web of relationships that actually makes the company go, they have no connection to it. So when somebody asks who they know in the company, the answer is small. Small connections produce small careers. But the rare person makes it their job deliberately to build relationships outside their immediate circle. They have lunch with the people in operations. They have a coffee with the long-tenured client who buys the most. They know the names of the partners' kids. They follow up after every interaction with a short message. Over years, they have built a network inside and around the business that is wider than their job description. Here's the truth. When the company thinks about who they can't afford to lose, they think about who knows whom. Because the relationships you have aren't just personal, they belong to the company too. If your client trusts you specifically, the company loses the client if you leave. If the partner takes your call specifically, the partnership weakens without you. If the people across departments collaborate with you specifically, the engine slows down when you're gone. You must make yourself the connection point. Pick 3 people outside your immediate circle who matter to the long-term health of the business. Build real relationships with them, not for a transaction, not for a favor, just because you have decided that those people are worth knowing. Do that for 2 years, and you will have built a kind of value the company can't easily walk away from. Because what you have isn't a skill, it is a presence. And a presence is harder to replace than any skill. Next, you have to become known for one specific thing. Most people try to be known for being generally competent. They want to be seen as smart, hardworking, dependable. They want a vague reputation as a good employee. That kind of reputation is everywhere. It is also forgettable. Because nobody can name the specific thing you are best at. You are easily confused with the dozen other smart, hardworking, dependable people in the building. Here's the truth. The hard-to-replace people have a clear answer to the question, what is this person known for? The product person knows the customer better than anybody. The salesperson can close the impossible accounts. The engineer makes the systems no one else can build. The writer produces the work that everybody quotes. Their name is associated with a specific kind of value, and that specific value is what makes them sought after. You see, in a world of generalists, the specialist is a magnet, not because the specialist knows everything, but because the specialist knows one thing deeply, and that one thing solves a problem the company has. The generalist is a commodity. The specialist is a destination. People come to the specialist because of the specific thing, and the specific thing is what makes the specialist irreplaceable. You must pick the thing, then own it. Don't try to be known for 5 things. Pick one. The one you are best at, or the one you most want to be best at. Then spend the next 2 years getting unreasonably good at that one thing. Read everything written about it. Talk to everyone doing it well. Practice it deliberately, and start being the person who shows up to that conversation every time it comes up with the most useful answer. Within 2 years, when somebody in your company has a problem in that domain, your name comes up first. Within 4 years, when somebody in your industry has a problem in that domain, your name comes up first. And by then, the conversation about your career is no longer about whether you are replaceable. It is about how much they will have to pay to keep you. Next, develop the rare combination. Being world-class at one thing is hard. Being among the top 10% at 2 or 3 things, and being able to combine them, is much easier. And it produces somebody almost nobody else in the market is competing with. Because the rare combination has no replacement. You see, the world is full of good salespeople. The world is full of good writers. The world is full of good analysts. But the salesperson who can write, the analyst who can speak in public, the engineer who understands marketing, those people are scarce because almost nobody bothers to develop the second skill. So when the combination is needed, the few people who have it can name their price. Here's the truth. You don't have to be world-class at any of the components. You must be top decile at each, and you have to be able to combine them in real work. The combination is what creates the moat. Because to replace you, somebody has to find another person with the same combination. And that person almost doesn't exist. Stack the unusual. Look at your strongest skill, then ask, what skill, if I added it to my current one, would make me very rare in the market? Then go build that second skill, not casually, deliberately. Take a course, take a class, apprentice with somebody. Spend a year of your weekends getting genuinely good at it. And when you can do both things at once in the same job, in the same project, your value goes up by a multiple, not by a percentage. I am telling you, this is one of the single fastest ways to make yourself hard to replace, because most people will never do it. Most people will pick one lane and stay in it forever. The handful who pick a second lane and learn to drive in both at the same time become the people the company can't afford to lose. They are not better, they are rarer, and rare is what gets paid. Next, show up when nobody else will. Every company, every team, every business has moments when the work is hard, the hours are long, the situation is uncomfortable, and most people quietly disappear. The crisis at midnight, the client emergency on a Saturday, the project nobody wants to inherit, the colleague who needs help on a weekend, the hard conversation that has to happen but nobody wants to have. Here's the truth. Those moments are when reputations get built permanently, because the people who showed up are remembered, and the people who quietly disappeared are also remembered. Not in the small way, but in the deep way. The leadership of the company has a long memory for who was there when it mattered, and that memory shapes every decision they make about you for years afterward. Most people think showing up is the bare minimum. It is not. Showing up in the moments that count is the whole game, because anybody can show up when things are easy. The line between the replaceable and the irreplaceable is drawn at the hard moments. The person who took the call at midnight, the person who came in on the holiday, the person who stayed late on the project nobody wanted. They got drawn on the right side of the line. The ones who didn't show up got drawn on the other side. You must be the one who shows up. Not for every little thing, you'll burn out. But for the moments that genuinely matter, the crisis, the client, the colleague, the hard conversation, when you can feel that this is one of those moments, show up. Be early, stay late, take the call. Don't make people work to find you when the building is on fire. Be standing there before they have to ask. And here's the truth. You will not be thanked for it most of the time. The leadership will not write you a note, but somewhere in their mind, your name moves up the list of people who can be trusted with anything. And that list is the only list that matters when the question becomes, who do we keep? Who do we promote? Who do we fight to retain? Next, you got to document everything you learn and figure out how the whole system actually works. In every company, most people only understand the part of the business that touches their job. They know their role. They don't know the inputs and outputs of the broader engine. They don't know where the money comes from at a deep level. They don't know which processes are critical and which are decorative. They don't know what would break first if something went wrong. I once knew a young woman who started in an administrative role at a mid-sized company. She was nothing special when she started, but she did something almost no one else did. She paid attention to how the whole business worked. Not just her piece of it. Every meeting she attended, she took notes. Every process she touched, she wrote down. Every conversation about how something actually got done, she remembered. After 2 years, she had built, quietly, in her own notebooks and files, a more complete picture of the company than anybody else had, including the executives. She knew how the orders flowed from the salespeople to fulfillment. She knew which clients were most profitable and why. She knew the names of the suppliers and the history of every contract. She knew which managers got things done and which ones blocked them. 5 years in, when the company faced a real crisis, a major systems failure, a key person leaving suddenly, a regulatory issue, they didn't go to the CEO. They went to her because she was the only person who could pull the full picture together. The CEO didn't even know half of what she knew. She had become, quietly and without anybody noticing the moment it happened, the keeper of the company's actual operating knowledge. That young woman ended up running the company, not because she had the most prestigious resume, not because she was the most charismatic, because she had made herself the only person who could hold the whole picture in her head. She had become irreplaceable through documentation and curiosity, while everybody else was focused on their own piece. Here's the truth. You must understand the system if you want power inside it. The person who knows how the system actually works has power that nobody else has. Because when something breaks, that person is the one who can fix it. When something needs to change, that person is the one who can see the consequences. When somebody asks a hard question about the business, that person is the one with the answer. Become the keeper of the map. Write things down. Pay attention in meetings outside your function. Ask people in other departments how their part of the business works. Build, in your own notes, a real understanding of the entire engine. Do this for 2 years and you will know things nobody else knows. And the company will treat you the way they treat people who know what nobody else knows. Next, speak up in rooms where decisions get made. Most people, when they get into the meeting with senior leaders, sit quietly and take notes. They tell themselves they are listening. They tell themselves their job is to absorb, not contribute. They walk out of the meeting having said nothing. And the next time decisions get made about important things, they aren't invited. Here's the truth. The people who get included in decision-making are the people who, when they are in the room, contribute. Not by talking the most, not by dominating, but by saying one substantive thing every time that pushes the conversation forward. They ask the question nobody else thought to ask. They make the observation everybody felt but couldn't articulate. They offer the perspective that opens up the discussion. You see, your presence in the room means nothing if your contribution is zero. The seat is not an honor. It is an audition. Every meeting, you are auditioning for whether you get invited to the next bigger meeting. The people who get invited to the bigger meetings are the people who proved in this meeting that they had something to say. The ones who sat silent stay seated where they always were. Get in the room and stay in it. You must force yourself to speak. The next meeting you attend with people more senior than you, say one substantive thing, just one. A question, an observation, a respectful pushback on an assumption. Whatever it is, make sure you have spoken before the meeting ends. The first time you do it, you will feel exposed. You will be exposed. That is the point. The exposure is what makes you visible. And as you do it more, you become known as the person who can be trusted to speak. The leadership starts to want your voice in the room because your voice is useful. And once they want your voice, you have moved from somebody whose job is to execute to somebody whose job is to help shape what gets executed. That move from executor to shaper is one of the biggest jumps in any career, and it doesn't happen until you start speaking. Next, you must learn your industry beyond your role. Most people know their job. They don't know their industry. They don't know who the major players are, who the disruptors are, what the trends are, what the regulatory environment is doing, what new technologies are reshaping the field. They have a job, and they know how to do the job. And that is the limit of their professional knowledge. Here's the truth. The person who only knows their job is replaceable by anybody who could be trained to do the job. The person who knows the industry, by contrast, brings something the company desperately needs and can't easily find. Broader context. The ability to see what is coming. The ability to connect what is happening here to what is happening at the larger level. That kind of knowledge is rare. And rare is what gets paid. You see, your industry has a vocabulary, a structure, a set of trends, a cast of important characters. If you know all of that, you can have conversations with executives that other people in your role cannot have. You can spot opportunities other people can't spot. You can warn the company about threats other people don't see. You become, in effect, a strategic asset, not just an operational one. Read past your role. You must spend 30 minutes a week reading industry publications, listening to people who know the field deeply, following the smart accounts of the people shaping it, taking the trends, taking the news, learn the names, learn the history. Build over time a real understanding of what business you are actually in, not just what task you are doing. Within a year, you will know more than most of your colleagues. Within 3 years, you will know more than most of your bosses. And when conversations happen about strategy, about direction, about what is coming next, your name will be on the list of people whose perspective the company actually wants. Because you have made the rare investment of understanding the field, not just your function in it. Next, you have to build a reputation that travels beyond your current company. Most people's reputation is local. It exists inside the walls of where they currently work. If they left, the reputation wouldn't follow them in any meaningful way. They would start over. The new company would see only the resume, not the reputation. That is the situation for the vast majority of working adults. It is also the reason most career changes feel like starting from zero. But here's the truth. The hard-to-replace person has a reputation that other people in other places have heard of. Their name precedes them. When they apply for something, the people on the other side have already heard them mentioned by somebody they respect. The conversation starts at a different level. The negotiation starts at a different level. The offer comes in at a different level because the reputation did the work before they walked in the door. You see, reputation travels by word of mouth. It travels through the people in your industry who talk to other people in your industry. So if you want your reputation to travel, you have to give those people something to talk about. You must produce work that they want to share. You got to be the kind of professional that people remember mentioning. Be a story people tell about each other when they talk about who is doing interesting things. Build the name. Do work that is good enough to talk about. Help people generously when you can. Be known as somebody who delivers what they say they will deliver. Be the person other people in your field recommend without being asked. When somebody asks them, who is good at this? That recommendation given by somebody who trusts you is worth more than 100 applications. It is the entire game. I am telling you, 10 years from now, the person whose reputation has traveled will have more options than they know what to do with. They will be recruited for things, offered things, invited into things. The person whose reputation stayed local will be sending out resumes and wondering why nothing is moving. Same skill, same intelligence, different choices made over a decade. Make the choices that get your name in motion, because once it is moving, it carries you for the rest of your career. So here's what I want you to carry with you. 10 things. None of them require talent you don't have. None of them require permission you can't get. All of them are choices, deliberately made over time by people who decided they weren't going to spend their working life as a replaceable cog in somebody else's machine. You can be that person, or you can be the other one. The one who showed up, did their job, and somehow never quite got promoted, never quite got the raise, never quite got the door opened. Those two people are not different in their intelligence or their talent. They are different in their choices. Every single day, over years, the hard-to-replace person was building the things on this list. The replaceable one was just doing the job. Pick 3 of these, just 3 to start. The 3 that hit hardest when you heard them. The 3 that you knew immediately you weren't doing. Start building them now, not as a project that takes a weekend, as a way you operate every single day for the next 2 years. And then come back and pick 3 more. Here's the truth. 5 years from now, if you have built half of these into your life, you won't recognize the position you're in. Not because the world changed, because you did. You will be the person other people in the company can't afford to lose. The person the clients ask for. The person who gets the meeting, the call, the offer. And the conversation about your worth will no longer be a negotiation. It will be a settlement. That version of you is available right now in your current job, with your current skills, in your current life. You don't have to leave to become them. You must start today doing the things they would do. The version of you that gets seen, gets paid, gets the doors open. That version is built by these 10 choices, made every single day, until you are no longer somebody the company could replace. until you are somebody worth missing, until the loss of you would be felt for years.